once they started mentioning it, I was like, I can't remember the last time I experienced solitude, like actually being by myself with nothing else, no music, no podcast listening, just nothing, just sitting there and just like being me, and like listening to my own thoughts. Even when you're in like a doctor's office or you're in line at the grocery store, what is everyone doing? They can't even wait the 15 seconds it takes to get to the front of the line or to like have somebody call their name in the, doctor's office. They have to be on their phone. I encourage anybody listening to just take whatever you do today, like whatever it is, just sit there in your discomfort. It takes a lot of effort at first, and then you really start to enjoy it.
Hey guys, my name is Shayla. Welcome to the Hey Shayla Podcast. I went from full-time travel to full-time new COVID mom, and now I'm a mom of two. And holy wow, is motherhood and adulting a learning curve. There are so many decisions we need to make and a million ways to do it right. I created this podcast to interview some of my gurus to share their knowledge and empower you on your journey. Let me be your guinea pig and ask the questions you think everyone else knows. Here, we're a little hippie. We try to do things as naturally as possible. We're open-minded, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. But above all, we support one another and work to find what works. If you're into it, you're our people. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hey Shayla Podcast. Today I have Lynzy on. Lynzy is a mother of four and has been a physician's assistant in a level 1 trauma emergency department for the past 14 years. In 2008, she created her blog, Lynzy & Co., as a creative outlet from her career. And after spending the past 7 or so years on social media, she decided to delete Instagram, completely deleted it. She now communicates with her community via newsletters as well as through her podcast, Motherhood Meets Medicine. She was very overwhelmed with the amount of information online and how toxic it can be. And now she shares the immense value in limiting your time online and expanding your life by soaking up more time in solitude. I asked you to be on this podcast to talk about life after Instagram.
It exists.
I feel like that's after AI.
Yeah.
Life after Instagram.
Yeah.
Is there a life after Instagram?
There is.
So because I want to know like what the changes that it have brought to you, and to encourage some people who are kind of like fed up with the app a little bit, to encourage them to get off of it. So first of all, thank you for being on this podcast to chat with me about this, because I think that I'm just so curious, because it's kind of an extreme thing what you did of just like, you didn't just like, I'm going to delete the app and let things continue. You like closed your account.
Mm-hmm.
How many followers did you have when you closed it?
So I feel like I'm just kind of extreme in a lot of things. I don't really like going halfway with anything. So what was the question? Why I did it? Or
yeah, well, I guess so. The first question is like, I always like to start with you. So kind of talk about how you got started on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and then like, what was the catalyst to be like, I need to get off of this.
Yeah. So I started blogging back in 2008. So this was like way before. This was like old school blogging, where you would put up a blog post and people would visit your site and comment on your site, and that's literally all that happened. So like you would get into a group of other bloggers and you would try to like increase your traffic to your blog, and that's, I mean, at that time there's no one was making any income from any of this, really. It was eventually teaming up with brands to receive, items, either to review them or clothing to style or what have you, but there was no like monetary inclusion in any of this. It was just for fun. Okay. So for 5 or 6 years, I mean, I only did that for fun. It was really just purely, it was just a side thing. I needed something to get me away from the ED, that would bring me joy creatively. And, so that's what I did. And so, up until I had my first child, I did have that extra time,
right.
My husband was, in med school, like crazy busy all the time. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. So I just did it just for fun. I really, really loved, this one blogger, Emily from California. And I used to like follow her all the time. Anyway, I think she ended up with a clothing line at some point, but I didn't really follow her after like 2014 or something. So Oh gosh. Then Twitter came around. That was pretty much the only social media like handle I had for a long time. And I would just like boost my traffic via Twitter. Um, Still didn't really particularly like it. It was just kind of weird, especially in the beginning. And all the bloggers were hopping on Instagram once it came about. I don't even know what year that was. What year was it? Who knows? I don't know. But
Around
I was like,
2008, though, I feel like. Was it?
really?
I think,
Oh,
well, I
geez. Well, I
graduated.
didn't join it for years. Then.
Okay. I feel like that's a, oh, maybe, no. Facebook was around the time I
Yeah.
graduated. Yeah. I don't know I don't know an
Yeah.
Instagram kid.
I know. Who knows?
Yep.
So, I was like a real late bloomer to Instagram. I was like, I don't need another thing. What am I
Yeah.
going to do? Just post the pictures I'm posting online to a app? Like, it
Totally.
seems so silly. Like, I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the camera abilities that we have now. So all the
Mhm.
pictures sucked. They were terrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah,
am
oh,
I
yeah.
looking
And you
at?
had filters
What am
and
I
like
looking at?
frames
Terrible
and
filters, terrible. It's just silly. Um, so from the get-go, I was very anti-Instagram, but I eventually joined it because how else are you supposed to build your brand when everyone's going in one direction? You kind of have to follow the herd in that direction
Mhm.
because that's what happens.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think the real game changer for influencers in general was Instagram stories, because this allowed you to talk to your community in real time, and it made more of a connection, and eventually you were able to link very easily through your stories, and that's how you were able to like increase income.
Mhm.
I think that was a huge driver for the increase in people wanting to become influencers. It's just a lot easier because old school blogging was difficult. It was very time consuming. You
Mhm.
photographed your pictures and you have to write up this whole thing, so you're a writer, you're a photographer, you're a, like all of these different things. Whereas if you're on Instagram, you just like, I mean, it's there's a lot less involved. I
Yes.
feel like it's a lot easier to make income. So I also feel like it was terrible though for the viewers at that time, because with Instagram stories, you felt like you had to be online all the time because you felt like you were going to miss content. So there was content being pushed out every
Oh,
24
whoa.
hours.
Yeah.
And it was
Totally.
like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. Fear of missing out every 24 hours. So you
Whoa.
wanted to be on
I
there at
know.
least every 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's genius on Instagram's part because it's just
Yeah.
reeling you in. But you don't want to miss someone's content. So,
Totally.
and same as an influencer, you don't want to let any time go by because of course you weren't being shown in Instagram's algorithm if you missed a 24-hour window. You had
Mhm.
to be constantly posting every 25 minutes. So
Mhm.
I lived this life of several years of just being completely off the bandwagon and like posting every 5 minutes and really trying to like, just increase viewings and connect with my community. And a lot of it was, I look back on it and, I feel like I benefited from my community just as much as they might have benefited from me when it came to motherhood related material.
Mm.
So I'd like a late night nursing feed hashtag, and that was really helpful for me. And I think others that were up late at night, we would connect on there like with different topics. So if I were to miss anything from any of it, it would be like that particular connection and being able to help people in that way. But again, it's just drawing you back to your phone instead of like all these other things. So, I don't know. And then, so yeah, I don't know. So then we can fast forward a little bit to just before 2020. I was starting to reevaluate just using my kids as having my kids in my content. My kids have never
Totally.
been my primary
Yep.
content. My primary content was always like style, and motherhood topics. But, I was like, I feel like this is not where I want to go at all anymore. And I really
Mhm.
want to backtrack all of this. So I started removing all of my kids from any content I had, which was like an incredible job
I'm
in and of
sure,
itself.
yeah.
I mean, Instagram makes it impossible to remove posts. It took me weeks to remove all of my posts. Like it was so tedious. It was so silly.
Wait, so what was the main driver behind that?
I feel like so that's like a whole other podcast topic.
I'm sure, yeah.
But no, it's fine. I feel like children. So, okay. Featuring your children back in 2015, 2016, 2017 was much different than featuring children now. I feel like before it was kind of just this natural progression of, my kids are part of my life and I'm featuring them here. Whereas now there are accounts that specifically have their kids as the face of the account and pictures of them dancing in tight little leotards or what have you. You know what I'm saying? So now it's just more child exploitation. I wouldn't say that all these accounts that feature children are like exploiting their children. I mean, it's very obvious, what accounts those are.
Right.
But there are, many influencers that feature their children in their content. And some do it in a way that is maintaining their privacy, and some aren't. And I just picture my children when they get older being like, I didn't give you permission to like show my face. And then for them to like Google their name and then find all this content about them, I just don't think that that's very fair. They can't have a say. And even if you were to explain it to them, they're way too young to understand.
Right.
So, you can't get consent. So anyway, all of those different things, kind of led me to just getting them off completely. Which I swear I'm still doing. Like I still have to report people on Pinterest, for like
using
repinning
your phone.
Well, not really, but like repinning photos from my blog or what have you, like very innocent things, but pedophiles can be everywhere. So,
right. Yeah.
But there's been a lot of really scary incidences along the way. I had all of our not recently, I would say 2 years ago now, someone reached out to me via email and they were like, Lynzy, I just saw all of your family photos put up in a house for sale. Like somebody printed off all my photos, like from a photo shoot from years ago that has not been online in years. So I don't know where or how they found it. And they printed out all the pictures and put them into frames around the model homes. Like it was a whole model community.
Like it was
and
a
all
stock
the model
photo.
homes. Yeah. They thought it was a stock photo. Well, stock photos, because there was multiple photos from the same. Anyway, so I got in contact with the real estate company and I was like, threatening with the lawyer, the whole thing. And they were like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. Like they didn't know.
Right. Yeah.
But like, if you don't know where a photo comes from, don't use it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So that, and then, so once 2020 hit and the pandemic hit, being in the medical field, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be on here, I can't be talking about style or fashion. Like that's not appropriate. So I kind of like, I didn't switch my content. I just like immersed it into also talking about, things related to this pandemic. And I would say 25% of people hated that. But that's okay, because you don't have to like my content.
That's the thing. Yeah. Care. It's like it's the evolution of content. It's like, this is my life. I'm not always going to be talking about infants if I'm a mom thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's listen, this is free content. You can see your way out of it. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to watch a movie I don't like. So I think at that time I was right about like at 500,000 followers. And eventually by the time I left Instagram in December 2021, I had lost, I don't know, maybe like almost 100,000 followers.
Because you were talking about COVID stuff, right? That was kind of the thing.
I was talking about COVID, vaccines, whatever. I made a lot of people mad, but and it's funny because I talked to my friend Carla a lot. I met her through influencing, and she's like, Lynzy, she's like, there were days I was listening to you in the last couple months that you were on there, and you were like off the handle. You were just like saying whatever you wanted. You had no filter. Like it was a lot to take in, and that's like coming from her. So I'm like, I get it. Like it probably was, but at that point, I was so done with it. I just didn't care. I really didn't care, and I mean, in real life, that's like exactly who I am. Like, I just don't. So, I'm not going to be different than who I am in real life. But,
did your analytics tank?
So
like, I feel like when you start talking about COVID specifically, even just like saying the word, Instagram's
Instagram would like shadow ban me and like not show my content. My Instagram story views were down. Like, I didn't care. I really didn't. I didn't care. It was more important for me to educate than it was to receive views. Like at that point, I just wanted people to get vaccinated or do the right thing health-wise, because there were so many people giving wrong advice that I just really felt like I needed to be a voice of reason among many other medical professionals at that time. So that to me meant more than like the brand I built, really. I mean, because if I dedicated my whole life to going into like helping people. Like, why would I be online and not doing the same? Like, it just didn't reflect. It wouldn't reflect what I really want, like out of my career.
Yeah.
So,
Which is interesting because my sister sent me your stories, I think, with COVID and pregnancy. I don't know exactly what happened, but something with COVID, and I started following you. And I'm like, we didn't vaccinate. We didn't do any of those things. So I wanted to listen to your story because I felt like you were educated. You had a different perspective than I did, that I was still kind of like playing with, like, okay, what's the right thing to do here? I'm not sure. I feel this way, but I want to know all the answers. And so that's why I was like staying tuned into your stuff and listening to, which is really interesting. But then you started also talking about like, you would read There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather. And then you'd give like a book review, and it was long stories of like this book, and I'm watching them all. I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, what is There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather? And I would like, you kind of were doing like a book review thing for a while. And that's where I was following you. So would you say that some of that stuff, like what then caused you to be like, I'm done?
So many things. I can give you a list if you want, because I think that might be the easiest. Okay. First and foremost, it was incredibly unhealthy for me, in many different aspects. One is it was, incredibly addictive. And for me, I do come from a family that has some issues with that. And so, and I think, I don't think even if you don't have a family history, it's just addictive for everyone.
Agreed.
But for me, it was too much. So I really wanted to step away from that. And people are absolutely toxic. So once I opened up and talked about things that people didn't like me talking about, they wanted to actually murder me. Like I was getting death threats. So I don't need death threats in my life. On a daily basis, I would get emails like, you vaccinated your kids, they're going to die. Like crazy things.
Oh my gosh.
People have, they lost their minds now, but it was even, like, it was just, the pandemic kind of put it into a snowball effect. But, so that was reason number one. Number two was I started doing this deep dive of different books and different podcasts that would address, the social media issue. And, at first I was like a lot of other people, that followed me, and they would say to me, Lynzy, like, first of all, you're such a hypocrite for talking about this, because here you are like making money online. And I'm like, okay, listen, people are allowed to change their mind tomorrow, yesterday, an hour from now. Like, you live, you learn, you grow. Like, you don't stay stuck in the same place all the time, right? Like, that we would never get anywhere if that were the case. So, for me, it was growing older, learning more, and realizing that this wasn't for me. That can happen to anybody, anytime. Like, so, I just had a lot of people that were, they were like, I didn't think I had any issue. And then I listened to the podcast, or, one of the podcasts I listened to, or a book I read, and oh my gosh, like I started taking little mini breaks after that. And then I would take a mini break, whether it was like a weekend or a week, and then I would come back. And it's so funny because the second I would come back, you're like immediately pulled back in, and you would be on your phone. Your screen time on your phone's 8 hours a day. Like, think about that. Think about that. So before we had phones, what were you doing with 8 hours a day?
Right?
8 hours. 8 hours, because you're not sitting on a rotary phone for 8 hours, So, I just felt incredibly unproductive at that time. Like, it was just, I felt like, what am I actually getting accomplished on here? I'm getting inundated with information. So complete information overload, a lot of the information I do not need. And even if you do need it, it actually just makes you more confused. We know that information overload in general, when it comes to humans, we are not built to be taking in all of that information on a daily basis. We're just not built for it. And what happens is it increases cortisol, and then our brains get all mushy. And that's why people are like, first of all, they don't have attention spans. So you talk to somebody and they're like, I don't know what happened, but like, I can hardly even read a book anymore. Like, I'm trying to read a book and my mind goes here, there, and ever. That's because of social media and information overload. Like, you need to be ingesting information coming at you at 1,000 different speeds, because that's what you're used to doing every day. So it's very hard for people to sit down with a book and read it or sit down and watch a movie for 2 hours, or even be in a conversation one-on-one with somebody. It can be very hard. But also, just like, I don't know, like fogginess. So like, you'll be like, oh gosh, I was like trying to think of that thing. What was it? Like all of this is just like, if you're cramming your brain with a bunch of different information at once, like you cannot focus your attention elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like you need to be, and you just become like numb to it and kind of like just used to it. So like you actually crave it, all the information. And you feel like if you're not on social media, you're like missing out on all these different things, because simply reading a book isn't enough for you anymore. You need to be able to like, increase all this information. What else? So one of the podcasts, or maybe it was one of the books, I think it was Digital Minimalism, I think maybe, had talked a lot about solitude. And it's funny because once they started mentioning it, I was like, I can't remember the last time I experienced solitude, like actually being by myself with nothing else, no music, no podcast listening, no, something playing in the background,
journal,
a movie or whatever, just nothing, just sitting there and just like being me, and like listening to my own thoughts. Even when you're in like a doctor's office or you're in line at the grocery store, what is everyone doing? They can't even wait the 15 seconds it takes to get to the front of the line or to like have somebody call their name in the, doctor's office. They have to be on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I encourage anybody listening to just take whatever you do today, like whatever it is. So say you're going to the store, say you're going to an appointment, whatever it is, just sit there in your discomfort and just
in your
look around.
discomfort. That is
in
like
your discomfort.
You need to state that because it happens.
It's not going to be
like,
comfortable.
No,
it's going to be very uncomfortable because
Yes.
everybody is used to being on their phone, and it takes a lot of effort at first, and then you really start to enjoy it. And I remember being, I always tell everybody this story because it was very profound for me. And I was driving my son to school, and I was at a stoplight. And I think it was like starting to snow. It was just a really pretty day. And I saw people crossing the street. And I was just like really immersed in like trying to wonder what they were talking about and like looking around and like really taking in my surroundings. And it made me really emotional. And I started crying because I was like, I don't know the last time I looked around to like really take in my surroundings. And this was when I first really left Instagram. And it's just so crazy to me. I mean, we really are so incredibly consumed by our phones that we have absolutely no idea what's going on around us ever. Like, it's just, we're in this like straight line. We might hang out with friends once in a while or family, but like for the most part, we're just living in our phones.
And in our heads. Like, that's exactly what, like, you go from your phone and then you go to cook the meal and then you go to pick up the toys and then you go to do this and then you go to, and like, you're doing it all, you're right, with like blinders on. You don't see what's actually, you don't see that your kid's going, hey mom, look at this. Hey mom, look at this. And you're like, gosh, she keeps saying my name. No, mom, she wants to show you this thing that she just drew. And like, there's that awareness. I totally agree, because I've been trying to do the same things. I've even just like slowing down, unloading the dishwasher slower. Not because I need to get it done quickly so that I can go on to the next thing, but like, I'm right here. I'm going to touch the dish. I'm going to put it in the thing. I'm going to do it very slowly. And just like, and I told Seth, because I've been working on this as well. Seth's my husband. I almost had like a nostalgic moment. How insane that like slowing down gives me nostalgia of like being in the 90s when I was 10 or something. I don't know, whatever, but, and just like being present in whatever moment it is. Cause I remember being bored. I remember sitting on the couch and just being like, okay, the TV's not entertaining me anymore. I'm sitting here, the sun's coming in, I'm laying on the couch. Like, what am I going to do next? Mom, I'm bored. Find something to do, or I'll give you something to do. And you're like, and like, so in that moment where I was just like, I saw my daughter, I saw the dishes, I saw the kitchen, I saw the sun or the rain. And I was just like, whoa, how ridiculous and crazy that like that moment felt unfamiliar.
Yeah, I know. And it does. And we know from all the studies we have that like boredom for children is so incredibly crucial to their development, right? Like when they're bored, they get more creative. They start working with their brain. They use all these natural sources to like build a fort or build, whatever, what have you. Those skills are so necessary for their adult life. And unfortunately, some kids are not getting that these days because they're more and more in front of a screen. But the same goes for adults. Like we are not able to exercise our brain properly. And in that book, when it was talking about solitude, it also talked about how people just don't have hobbies anymore. People used to craft things. They used to, I don't know, they used to be cobble people, stone, like whatever they used to do with shoes. They used to do, they used to build all these different things, and people had a lot more hobbies, on the
With their
side. And
hands.
it's like,
Tangible.
yes, working with your hands. And we just don't do that as much, nearly as much as we used to. We're more using our thumbs to scroll on
Or
our
we're
phone.
doing it as a side hustle to then take pictures and get online and get it to Instagram and like,
right,
make our money or whatever, which is fine.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. And I do think, so I say all these things, and there's more. I mean, obviously modeling behavior is huge. Like, how are you going to expect your kids to be off a phone when they're older if you're on your phone all the time? That's a really tough one. And all of us are on our phones. So it's not like I'm sitting here saying I'm never on my phone. Like, that's not true.
Right.
I'll be on it texting or calling someone or what have you. And
Or
they'll
scheduling
be,
an appointment or looking at
yeah,
like
it unfortunately everything we do is on there now. Our calendar. I'll be like on there looking at the calendar, but like they don't know that.
Right.
So what I try to do with my kids now that I'm off there and I'm not on it nearly as much, but when I'm on it, I just say, hey, like, listen, mommy has to do this really quick. I'm just looking at my calendar, trying to figure out the week, like planning everything out. And then I also will say like, oh, I have my task list on here. So like I'll come off, I'll check my to-dos. I'll even show them what I'm doing. That way they're like understanding why I'm on there to begin with, because they might just think I'm ignoring them for no reason.
Right.
And like, why is she always on her phone? And I try to explain to them like, like we do use these for X, Y, and Z. And
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So, all that to say, I do think, there's obviously certain things about social media in general that can be, really helpful and positive. For me, it didn't outweigh the negative effects. So, that's like so much talking to just say that's why I left.
No, I mean, I think
here we are.
Multifaceted. It's that you like, and the thing that you said that kind of hit me the most is like being the model. Cause for you, you're like, yeah, I'm on my phone too much. Yeah, I should really not. I'm kind of addicted. Da, da, da. Oh, wait, my kids? What? Oh. And then that's sort of when you like pause and you're like, okay, this isn't just about me. This is about modeling a relationship with a phone. That's good. And I've tried to start to teach Aaliyah, like, if she's trying to get my attention and I'm on my phone and I catch it, I'll be like, mommy, get off your phone, just to try and get her to start. Cause if she's going to tell me to get off my phone, that's going to be like a huge wake up call where she'll be like, mom, get off your phone. Come play trains with me. I'll be like, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that definitely hits home. All right. We're going to take a brief break and talk about nursing and pumping bras. Kindred Bravely. It took me a long time to get a nursing bra because I was like, this is dumb. I don't really need this. And I use them like half the time. But if you are somebody that needs a pumping bra or a nursing bra, I love the Sublime Sports Bra. I work out in it. I love it. They also have pajamas. They have joggers. They have all sorts of like maternity and postpartum things that you want. If you're interested, go to heyshayla.com/kindredbravelypod. I have a discount code HeyShayla15. Normally my codes are just Hey Shayla, but this one's Hey Shayla 15. And if the codes ever don't work, go to heyshayla.com/codes to see the updated one. Let's get back to the show. But I feel like for a typical user, a typical user of the drug of Instagram, because I've polled my audience because I'm like grappling with this too. And a lot of them are like, I don't know, I don't really feel like I have that big of an issue. Like I hop on, sometimes I hop off. And either they're a little bit in denial like I was, or when you do it as a business, it's different, or it can be different because you can justify it a little more. You're like, oh, well, I'm doing this as a job or whatever. But like I've deleted the app from my phone or made it so it's not on my screen where I have to actually type in the word Instagram to find it. And when I will be at a stoplight and I'll start typing in Instagram and then it's not there because I deleted it off my phone.
Mhm.
And it makes me just like, it like puts the mirror right in my face. And it's like, what are you doing? Where are you? Oh, you're at a stoplight right now? And you just,
Mhm.
and I don't even think, oh, I'm going to check Instagram. I just
Mhm.
grab my phone and my fingers start typing Instagram.
Mhm.
What am I even going there for? And it's just mad.
Mhm.
It's just crazy.
It's maddening.
So,
Yeah, I know. I
um,
understand.
I know you do. But so I've been listening to a couple of your podcasts where you're talking about this specifically, and a couple of things came up that I thought was interesting. First, you said you're kind of like in all or nothing. Like you're like, oh yeah, this is cute. I'm going to put restrictions on my phone and I'm going to like not do it on the weekends and not do it, whatever. But it kind of just kept bleeding back in. And so that's when you did a hard stop.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
Yeah, I tried that. And I'm kind of like a pessimist at heart. I've always tried optimism, but it doesn't really work for me. So
okay. I'm giving it a go. It's not my thing.
yeah, it's not really a thing. No, I only say that because while I think taking breaks might work for maybe 1% of the population, I think it probably doesn't work for 99%. Because what happens, and I've tried everything. I tried days, I tried weeks, I tried months. And the problem is that every single time you went back, it just sucked you right back in.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like an all or nothing. And that's really black and white. And I really like being nuanced with everything. So I hate saying that to people. And again, it's like pessimist to me. I'm like, well, you have to just be off of it completely. That's such an unrealistic thing to say. And it's not possible for a lot of people that want to have businesses, because in order to boost your business, you have to be online. Like you absolutely have to be online.
But not
Um,
necessarily Instagram.
no, not necessarily Instagram.
No.
No. My friend, I did an interview with my friend Danny. She has an awesome business, Time is Honey, and she is currently living in Denmark. And I interviewed her because I wanted to hear her perspective because she has a really good grasp on all of it. So she talks about it like from a business perspective and staying online and how she manages it.
Yeah.
So I recommend that to anybody who does have a business and wants to listen to it. It's a really good one.
Do you know what the
I can send you the
title?
link for it.
Okay. I'll
I'll
put it in the
send you
show
the link.
notes.
Yeah. But I think, you have to have a plan of attack. So like if you didn't want to be specifically on Instagram, or you wanted to get off of Instagram, you just have to have a plan. So, like my plan was, at the beginning of the year in January 2021, I said, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to delete this account. I don't want anything to do with it. And I'm just going to basically market this for the next year until I delete it. And I just came up with a game plan as to like how to do that and how to, bring my community over to where I was going to be, which is via my newsletter and my podcast. And that's it. I do have an Instagram account for my podcast specifically, but there's nothing on there. I mean, don't get excited. It's just like, it says this person was on the podcast. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And I had somebody else managing it, but then I couldn't afford her because I obviously don't make what I used to make. So I do it. And I download Instagram on a Wednesday. I post my thing and then I delete it. And so that's that. But and I go back and forth, like, does the podcast even need this?
Right.
I think it does, not from my perspective, but from the perspective of the people that I interview. Because they're trying to
share it.
boost their, so anyway.
Yeah.
So what was I saying?
Well, that was another interesting thing that you said, is that there was like a runway, because I was ready to like tomorrow just be like, bah, I'm deleting it. And then I would listen to
that's
your
not
podcast.
really, I mean, you can, I just, as a business, like from a business perspective, I think there needs to be a plan. Like, my friend Jess Ann Kirby, she did the same thing. She still has her Instagram account, but somebody else manages it and posts her content now, but she's off. So like she'll create the content in the background, but she doesn't go on there at all. Like the app is not on her phone. Like she doesn't use it.
Does she do stories and stuff for that too?
Does she what?
Stories?
I don't know because I don't, but you can check her out. Jessie Ann Kirby is her handle.
I'd be curious if she like
she
recorded the stories and then forwarded them to somebody to
upload. I don't know. I think the person might just post like her content. So like, this is a new blog post. This is a newsletter thing that went out, or, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, she once you get rid of Instagram, you can no longer monetize it. So like she wouldn't be able to monetize it. I mean, I guess if she was doing a video, but then I'm like, what's the point of that? I mean, I guess the point is that she's not on there scrolling, but
Right.
like you're still
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what she's doing on there, but like when I deleted my handle, like there was no, like monetizing on social media is not an option at all for me anymore. And I actually was optimistic that some of the brands that I was with for many years would transfer over with me to the podcast. Some did, some didn't. So that was kind of disappointing. I was just disappointed that brands were not willing to like discover new avenues of, monetizing, but
Right.
or marketing, but whatever.
Would you say that your audience shifted over? Would you say that you had success getting, because I feel like yes.
Yeah. So it might not. So I guess I'm going to use my newsletter for this and not necessarily my podcast. My podcast just hit over 1 million downloads. So I do think it's doing well.
Yeah.
But my story views that I had when I was on Instagram, like my average story views, if you translated that into how many people signed up for my newsletter, it was the same exact amount. So it was so interesting to me that, and I'll give you numbers. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Like that I would have an average of like 30 to 40,000 views on Instagram stories.
Yeah.
And I have that amount of subscribers for my newsletter. Do you know what I'm saying? So it was the people that were watching my stories that moved over. Right.
Totally.
And, I mean, I've had the newsletter for a year and 5 months now, and that's the only way I communicate with people. And I've lost maybe, some people will unsubscribe, but like, I mean, for the most part, they've stayed exactly where they are, which is wild. So, I also think it's a much better way to digest content. So like for somebody that was watching my stories, they felt the need to keep up, right? So at the every 24-hour thing. And then if I mention something, it's like, you got to write it down, right? Or you got to try to go back to the person's content and find it later on. What did she talk about here? I can't remember what it was. So now it's in a newsletter form every Friday where you can just, when you have time, kids are off to school, you have 20 minutes with a coffee, you sit down, you ingest the information. It's information that you take in when you are available. It's not by the availability of whoever you're watching, right? So it's like, and then you're easily able to go back to newsletters to find information that you might have wanted to jot down, or maybe you wanted to listen to, like, cause I always do like podcast or book recommendations or whatever. And then the content it lives there forever in your inbox. It's not in space, like, wherever else. So it's just information that you're able to digest so much more than, being on social media.
And slower.
And slower.
Like,
So, and I think building the community where you want the community to go takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. So you have to be patient, and in the meantime, set a lot of rules for yourself. So in that last year, I was off social media, I think, for 2 months total. So like I took off 1 whole month I think it was in the spring, and then 1 whole month in the summer, where I was off completely. And then I never was on for weekends ever. I would sign off on Fridays, sign back in on Mondays. Like who else works on the weekend? Like, I mean, depending on what your job is, like I work on the weekends, but your typical 9 to 5 Monday, they're not going to work on the weekends. Like, get off the damn phone. You know what I mean? So like, and I'm saying that to myself, like, and not to whoever's listening. It's just to myself. So I just introduced all that stuff, during that year. And, I don't know that this would work for everybody or for every business or for, it's just what worked for me specifically. And again, like I said, like you can't expect to make the same amount of income because you just can't. You like if you're an influencer, depending on what your business is.
Exactly. So for me, most of I've got a YouTube channel. That's where my audience is. Then I've got Instagram, which is like a third of that. And then my newsletter, which is like a tenth of that. Like it's just whatever. But I started tracking, where is my money coming from? Is it coming from my stories? Because that's what I assumed, because I'm on there all the time. No, it's not coming from that. It's coming from YouTube. My bigger brand deals are on YouTube because my audience is bigger there. The affiliates are better because it's not 24 hours. this is a searchable platform, YouTube. So people can like find this video, even if it's 3 years old, if it's relevant, they're going to watch it. They're going to click on the affiliates. Like, so I was like,
Instagram is such a waste. Like you said, I mean, it's so much like, I think you like just reevaluating kind of where you spend your time. Like you said, I mean, you're saying it out loud where it's like, this is where I make the majority of my income. So why waste your time with any other platform, especially if it's a platform that's making you wander, and it's going to make you wander. You know what I mean? Like it just does. It's what it does. It's what it's designed to do.
Yes.
It's not a fault of your own. It's just what happens. So it's like, if you're able to make, like in your case, you're making your income over there. Like I lost that.
That's
completely.
What you said. 90% of
I would say it's probably, in the beginning it was. I had a bookkeeper at the time, and she was like, Lynzy, we've been in the negatives for like 3 months. Like I was paying to be a business at that point.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, we can't do that. Like you can't. I was just going to see how it went. And then if not, I was just going to delete everything, like delete my newsletter, delete my everything. I was just going to be done with it. And but over time, it kind of bounced back.
Wait, and since you got off Instagram?
Huh?
When are you saying this? After you left Instagram?
This was right after Instagram.
Okay.
When
so
I got off Instagram,
and then your bookkeeper was like, okay, we can't sustain
well,
what we're
so
doing.
I wasn't monetizing my podcast for the first year.
Okay.
I didn't monetize at all. I just wasn't interested in like having another avenue of anything. Like I just let it be.
Yeah.
And then I started monetizing right when I left Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was like finding people to advertise on my podcast. I had no ability to really do that at that time. So I ended up going with an agency by the beginning of summer, and they helped me find, I mean, even still, it's not like profound, you know, I actually probably make more money through affiliates through my newsletter than I do through my podcast, to be honest. But the podcast for me is like an extension of the work I do in real life, quote, real life. So I really like it, and I really love meeting new people and learning and all of those things. So that for me is like, that gives me life. So it's cool that it also makes any type of money,
which is how you started your blog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as like,
so it's kind of cool how like the whole evolution of it all is actually really crazy. And I feel like I took what didn't work for me and the bad shit and like threw it over here and just kept what worked.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, I feel like 90's probably too much. I would say probably 80.
Okay.
80%.
Even if it was 50, like the fact that the majority of your income was coming from this one thing, and you're like, I'm not really vibing with this anymore.
No,
I'm just going to leave it. Like, I feel like most people would think, man, I hate this, but I have to keep doing it because how else am I going to, are you still PA?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I never left. So,
Girl.
but I like, people would always ask me, like, if push came to shove, if you could only pick one job, like if you could only do one thing. And I always said I would leave and just be a PA. Like, I don't find joy out of being run down on a hamster wheel on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it really lost its luster. I mean, really, I mean, it was like a couple years of just like straight up nonsense that I was just like completely engulfed in. And I mean, to be able to like just leave all that was so freeing. I mean, really.
So what do you feel like are what has life after Instagram felt like?
It just feels a lot lighter. I feel like I have a lot more time to do. Well, first of all, I'm raising most importantly, raising four kids. And I'm able to model for them what I feel like is important for them growing up. And that's like really, really important. I also just feel like so much less like foggy. Like I felt like I was walking around in this like, I mean, really like this confused cloud of like craziness, like all the time. It's just like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I don't know. Let me go on my phone. So like that's gone. I do so much more reading. Like I have read an insane amount of books, even just this year so far, even with all the things I have going on, you know, like with the kids, like, I mean, really, they're like 24/7 work. I mean, you know, so, it's hard to even describe. It's just, you feel so much lighter. I don't have to deal with all the bullshit.
Yeah.
present with everything, not just people, but things. And I'm connecting way more with people that like have always mattered to me in real life. I feel like I've been like, I really reach out to like get together with people so much more now, because I'm like, that's my connection. I used to
Yeah.
have this fake, this not fake, I wouldn't say it's fake connection, but it is in the
It's
way
like a
that it doesn't
blind
fulfill you.
connection.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
fulfill you like a
Yes.
face-to-face conversation fulfills you.
100%.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there is so much value in finding a community online that you can't find offline. That I do feel like is really important. So like people that might be struggling with a certain illness and they
Yeah.
need connection with those people. So that is the number one thing I think the internet is great for. I think being able to make people feel less alone.
Mhm.
So whether that's also like LGBTQ community when they're younger and trying to like figure out where to go, like they have that connection online. They might not have those connections in real life, but it's so important for people to feel less alone. So the internet, I feel like it's so good for that part.
Oh, but it's so two-sided. Like,
I
I
know.
feel like for specialty things, or not specialty things, but more specific things, like you said, illness or even just like motherhood. But then for me, it just sometimes feels empty. Like, yes, we're
Oh
communicating,
yeah.
but like I'm still sitting in my room but with my kids or by myself, and just like
Yeah.
you're in your head, you're not in your
Yeah.
body. And it just
Yeah.
uh,
I think so. And this is like a whole like different podcast in of itself, but what I've like thought about so much since I left is that, and not without getting too like deep into this, but motherhood in America is real special in that we are not, we're just not designed to thrive here at all. And it's funny because all of us are online searching for community and help because we're not able to get it anywhere else in our life. Because we're forced to go back to work after 4 weeks, because we're not given, help with childcare. We're not given, we're thrown into it with like no help whatsoever. And, all over the world, there's communities that help raise babies. Like they're not just off in the corner fending for themselves.
totally.
So here it's almost like social media thrives off of mothers who are like lost and need help, and then they're monetizing off of it.
Mhm.
So to me, it's like super gross because I feel like moms are, online because they desperately need connection with other moms who are feeling the same way, because we're not getting that elsewhere.
Mhm.
And it's like all of these bigwig tech companies are making, insane amount of money off of like throwing us ads so that we buy something at 2:00 in the morning when we're nursing our baby. So,
Yeah.
yeah, all that to say, I think it's been really cool that mothers have been able to be real badass, making insane amount of money from home while parenting their children
Totally.
in this way. So I think it has been really cool because it has empowered women staying at home with their kids.
Mhm.
And it's given them this avenue of making money, whereas that's never happened ever
Mhm.
before,
Totally.
especially, early on, when we weren't allowed to leave the house at all. So I just think that's really cool. But I also, like you said, it's very
Yeah.
double-sided. It's like I feel very conflicted with it. I just know for myself it's not, it's just not for me.
Yeah, the pros do not
But right. And
outweigh the
I
cons.
think that looks very different person to person.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
agree. I feel like right. This is like I started this podcast with to like potentially influence people to get off of social media, but I think for some people it can be valuable. So it's just kind of silencing all the noise, even this noise, and
Mhm.
deciding for yourself, like, is this affecting my life? Not really. I feel like I've
Mhm.
got it under control. Truthfully, like inside, I believe that. Or maybe I need to reevaluate this and see if
Mhm.
this is something that I should change. Just like anything in life, like some people can handle it, some people can't, some
Mhm.
people thrive, some people like, yeah, just kind of figuring out what's the best thing for you. All right. We are going to take a brief break to talk about We Talkers. We Talkers are speech therapists and moms who made a course to teach you how to help your baby talk. They've been on my podcast to talk about this, but they have a baby course, a toddler course, and then they have a Song and Stories memberships. And the Song and Stories is a way that they were trying to improve screen time and have them actually have like a face and then do stories and songs with them. If you're interested in this, Hey Shayla will be a discount. If you go to heyshayla.com/we, WEE talkers pod, it will get you to their website. If my codes ever not working, because sometimes they change, go to heyshayla.com/codes and it will give you all the updated codes. Let's get back to the show. So you would feel like you have had like a drastic difference since getting off?
Oh yeah. Yeah. For me specifically, yes. There are a few things that I miss. Like, I feel like, I really miss like some of the news that I would, receive like via Instagram stories. I guess, like, I really loved Sharon Says So. Um, I loved how great she was at educating about government. I really didn't know anything about like how anything works. And she's so good at like teaching you like all the different levels of government and branches and all that stuff. So like stuff like that I do miss, because I felt like I was actually getting something out of that,
Right.
that was helpful. But again, it's really hard to filter through that while also taking in all the other noise. You just can't like
Right.
that. So I found that by signing up for certain newsletters and
Yeah.
ingesting things when I had, the ability to do so was so much better for me.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, I wanted to mention, when I first started talking about leaving social media and why, the main driver in the very beginning was a podcast episode on the Rich Roll podcast, and it was with Cal Newport. He wrote Digital Minimalism, and it was absolutely like, in that particular time in my life, it was very effective at like getting me to like really look at my social media use. So then I was like, you know what, let me buy this book. So I bought the book and then I read the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to like really reevaluate my life. Like, that's how life-changing this podcast and the book was for me. And then I went down a huge deep dive and like read like a bunch more books.
Do you have
I
a
have like
resource for where you have the list
yeah,
of
I
these
can
things?
send you, I can send you a link to my post that has like
Yeah.
the podcast listed out and some books as well.
Sweet.
And it's just been really fascinating to hear. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Hold on, let me actually look for you, because there is somebody I really recommend listening to. He was the person who created virtual reality. Like, he's one of the smartest people I've ever heard talk.
Hmm.
And oh my God, let me see here.
While you're looking that up, in my process of like trying to reduce things, I've deleted the app off of Instagram. And then now what I do is I go on via my Safari app. So I get on the Safari app, log into my Instagram, and then guess what? Reels don't play automatically.
Yeah.
So I don't get sucked into that.
Yeah.
I can't do Instagram stories. So that's like kind of annoying, because I'm like, oh, if I'm trying to create and not consume, but like when I watch other people's story, it like glitches every time it switches to a new story, and it's just super cumbersome and it gets boring very fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is the way that I need to consume Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people that, so a lot of the people, when I first said I was going to leave, were like, I don't have a problem. Like, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to tell me about this. And it's so funny how people feel the need to tell you these things, but they do. And then it's so crazy because 9 months later, a year later, 3 years later, I still get emails. I get emails that were like, it took me a long time to come around, but I left Instagram. And it's because of you mentioning back in 2021 to leave and why. Like, I just got one this week that was like, hey,
it's me too. I remembered, I was like, as I was like starting to grapple with this, I was like, wait. And I had to like Google you and be like, how did you spell her name? What was the account? And I'm asking my sister, I was like, remember that girl talked about COVID? And I'm like Googling and trying to find it. And I found you. And I was like, okay, here she is. Do you think she'd be on my podcast? You're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, that must be what life without Instagram is. Like, you just have time to get on pod and reschedule podcasts. But I was like, and I was so excited to talk to you. And I even told Seth today, I'm like, I'm talking with Lynzy, and I'm going to talk to her about how she got off Instagram and all these. And like, so yeah, like,
yeah.
it's 2023. We're a couple months in, like 100%.
It's crazy. Like people, and I just think it takes everybody their own time to figure it out, you know? But people come around and they're like, I had no idea like how incredibly toxic this was for me.
Yeah.
You just don't know until you know, and then you know. So
Yeah, right. Yes. What were you looking up? A name?
Oh, Jaron Lanier. So
Okay.
he was on The Social Dilemma, the documentary.
Oh, yes.
And that's how I first found him. And then I went into Apple Podcasts and like put his name in to see if he ever did any recordings with anybody.
Yeah.
And so then I listened to every single one he's ever done. He's
you
just
have time.
the reason why, well, I don't have that much time.
No.
The reason why I like him so much is that he was in Silicon Valley. He was friends with all of these people. He grew up doing technology. He knows about the immense positive effects of technology, but he is on the other side of the fence being like, guys, this is not what you think it is. This is really bad for us. And what he really emphasizes is that we are all just giving out all of our information for free. And that's again, gross. Like our kids' information, like to companies that are using this to profit greatly. And so what he always talks about, and he will put it together much more eloquently than I, but like there needs to be subscription services. Like you can't just use Instagram to use Instagram for free. Like people can't be using your information. Companies can't be using your information for free all the time. That is like not how it should work. And he's like, this will end up putting us in a very, 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 very bad place. Because it's always going to be these huge companies making shit ton of money off of us all of the time without ever having to pay for it. And they're just using our information constantly to target us with crazy ads all of the time. So he talks a lot about that, and it's really, really interesting, but he also just talks about, like negative effects and things like that. But I just love hearing him talk because he's so intelligent. And I think, he's like, I blew this whistle back in 1980 and people didn't listen to me. And here we are. So, it's like fascinating.
It's wild. Okay. So what advice would you give to somebody who is like trying to decide if they even are on Instagram too much? Or social media,
because I think you have to go through several steps to like actually admit, okay, this is, I mean, it's literally equivalent to saying you're an alcoholic or that you are a drug addict or that you are addicted to anything. Yeah. No, it is.
Yes.
Because it's affecting, dopamine in the same exact ways. So you actually have to get to the point of like admitting that you have a problem, right? So this is like part of your like program of like Alcoholics Anonymous. You have to like do the digging, learn more, and really reevaluate what's going on in your own life. And you have to admit that I am using this too much. Okay, what can I do about it? What can be done about it? And there's so many different things that can be done about it. Right. You can start and just say, you know what? I don't know if I have a problem, but let me just see what happens when I delete it for a week. You'll see how addicted you are. Just delete it for a week. I deleted the first time I ever deleted Instagram for a week. I was on my phone checking the weather every 5 seconds. Oh, it's going to be sunny. Oh, it's going to be sunny. Oh, it just went up 1 degree. Oh, chance of showers later. Like, I kid you not. And I was like, oh, I am a lunatic. Like, this is crazy. Who needs to be picking up their phone this much? Because you just pick it up. You pick it up and you scroll and you don't even know you do it. Like, try going to the bathroom without your phone. Try that out. That's crazy too. Like, because you just don't realize you do these things. And I think once you start kind of introducing like little things like that every day, like, okay, today I'm not going to take my phone here. And I will say, like, I'm not somebody who's like totally anti social media or technology. I was totally anti Apple Watch for a while, but I actually ended up getting one because I purposely leave my phone at home now.
That's literally what I have mine on. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So I don't bring it.
Because you can't scroll, you can't you can get calls. I can
get my phone calls. Yep. And I don't have any apps on there. Yeah. I don't have any apps. And I mean, you can't really do anything on there anyway, even if you had an app. There's no ability to like do anything. So that was my way of, because like, when you have kids and stuff, you don't want to be without a phone. Like that's that's tough. You need to So
I was the same way because
Yeah.
the watch was like an extension of your phone that was like, ding, you've got a notification, ding. And I was like, no, I don't need any more dinging. And then I was like, wait, it's like the simplest form of what I need from my phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can just, because today I went to Target and I was in Target and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot my phone in the car. Get to the car and I was like, my phone's not in the car. Is it at home or did I leave it in Target? It was plugged in at home. And I was like, good for you, Shayla. Good for you. You forgot your phone and it was fine.
I know people like, it's a tough thing, but like, that's another thing. Just leave your house without your phone for an hour.
Yeah.
That's mind boggling. Like go grocery shopping without a phone. Say like, you know, it seems hard at first. Cause you're like, well, how am I going to, my grocery list? No, write it down. You know what I mean? So it's just so many different things like have to change. And I think it's been like a year and a half now. And so I've made all these changes. So to me, it seems more normal now, but it was very hard in the beginning. I mean, very, 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 very difficult to like switch your brain and the way that it was working before and kind of how it works now. It's like kind of hard to describe, but
no, I feel like I'm in that right now where I'm like starting to, cause I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave my phone in the kitchen at night. Or like when I go in for a nap, when I'm napping my baby, I don't need my phone to do that.
Yeah.
It's hard though, because then you're sitting there and you're like, go to sleep so that I can go somewhere. And then you're like, wait, what? How about I just stare at my baby for a little bit and enjoy this sweet little moment and not worry about the next thing that I have to do? Like your brain really, sometimes now that I don't have it, if I do bring it in the bedroom once they're sleeping, cause I co-sleep, then I'll start, I don't have Instagram. Okay. Well, I get on Facebook. Well, I've kind of done that. I check a few houses on Zillow. Cool. Did that. Well, maybe I'll get on Pinterest. I kind of want to do, and I like am creating things to look up.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know. What's happening?
Yeah. I know.
All right. Well, will you send me that blog post? Cause I feel like that's a really good place to start of like the podcast, a few books to read. Yeah. I think that would be super helpful for somebody that's dabbling and wants to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with me. How does somebody get on your email list?
If you just go to my blog, so it's lynzyandco.com. And then at the very top, it'll say like, sign up for a newsletter.
Easy. Okay. And then your podcast is Motherhood
Meets Medicine.
Yes. Where you talk about medicine stuff?
All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Like we talk a lot about, not one topic in particular. Everything, sex, intimacy, stuff related to kids, like anxiety, stress, the current issues with motherhood, like, you know,
and you're interviewing
all the
people?
things. Yeah. So they're all people that are like in the medical field, essentially. Some of them are actually, there's a few that are just maybe somebody talking about their experience with a certain thing. But yeah, for the most part, they're like, and it could be anything, a speech therapist. It could be, so like I have podcasts on, you know, speech in little kids or baby-led weaning or like, you know, all the things. Like there's all kinds of different
But
things,
also you've documented a little bit of your process of getting off Instagram, because I was listening to those. I was like, okay, let's hear this. And
I know, and I owe everybody an update. And I had people send in like clips of like what happened when they went off too, which will be really cool to hear. Yeah. So like people from my community that were willing to like send in recordings about like their journey.
Cool.
So yeah, that's going to be published sometime. You know, I don't give any dates anymore. I have no idea when things will happen, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate this. And I feel like hopefully will be helpful as somebody is a potential catalyst or just planting a seed for 3 years later or whatever happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please share with somebody you think would love. And I would be so honored if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment and rating below so I can know what you guys are digging, what you want more of, just connect with you a little better. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.